So, Vahbiz, welcome to the Thinking Physio podcast, and I'm really excited to have you. And I was sitting here. I was sitting here for some time, and I was just looking at the screen, and I've seen a bunch of this is my first Zoom meeting, but I've seen a bunch of Zoom meetings, and it's already recording for the last 5 minutes, and I'm just looking at the screen, and I've seen other people do it. I was like, I'm sure I'm going to do the same. Just try and edit that part out, though.
All right, cool.
So, how are you today?
Very good, actually. Been very busy with patients and training and the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just been back to back. Yeah.
I see. Awesome. So, Vahbiz, just to give a little introduction, I guess, to some of the people who listen to this, Vahbiz is a physiotherapist. She is the captain of the women's Indian rugby team. And one of the things that the way I feel like I kind of got introduced to or saw your profile was I was just going through, I followed Iron Grip India on Instagram. And through that, I was looking for, I was looking at what is the weightlifting scene, I just want to see. And then in the recommendations, I saw your, profile. I was like, that looks nice. So I just checked it out and I saw your exercise videos and I'm like, man, even if you didn't have the, women's Indian rugby team captain, just the physiotherapist and your exercise videos, I was already excited. I was like, I need to bring you and, talk to you about whatever's going on. So the first thing I got to say is, Vahbiz, you're one of us. You're a physio.
I am. Yes, I'm part of the family.
However, I got to say that while you are one of us, you're definitely exceptional, right? And the reason I say that is because being in our field in physio, especially in India, I used to always look around as like, man, while we deal with athletes and even regular people, but none of us are athletes, So,
yes.
And I always think man, at least we should have some kind of a background to this. It will be weird if I've never played a sport, but I'm telling people, oh, go run a couple of rounds or whatever, But then
actually, yeah.
Yeah, you walk the walk there.
I run the walk.
Yeah, but that was amazing to see. So first off, what I'll do is I just want to go back to your initial. I know you've gone over this so many times, so I'm going to make it a bit easier for you and say, guys, here's a little bit of background about Vahbiz. She has always been athletic, right? From what I've picked up from all your interviews, right? And you've always been athletic, and you were encouraged, because this is the repeated questions I saw a lot of times. You were encouraged to play sports, and was it handball or dodgeball, you said?
Handball. I started off with athletics, then I played handball, then wrestling. So handball, wrestling happened side by side, and then rugby.
Right, and then finally it was rugby, I see. So when exactly now, how many years ago did you start playing, become serious about rugby though?
Back in 2009 itself, the day I started playing the sport, I was serious from day one. I mean, I knew I wanted to stick with this.
Oh, I see. And when you were diving into, say, the world of rugby, were you looking around to see other players who are there, or were you already introduced to them? I know you have some friends already, but had you seen other people in the field and you were like, you know what, this is something I can get into, or was it totally a dive into the unknown?
No, it was a dive into the unknown. In fact, the people that we were playing with so in Pune, we have people from this side of the river and of that side of the river. So everybody who I grew up with was all on this side of the river. And then the rugby, everything rugby was happening on that side of the river. So actually it was a completely new scenario, new language, new way of talking. It was just a completely new set of people.
And when you say first went into the scene, right? Was that kind of a shock? Were you, or in other words, did you have, apart from your coaches, players who kind of took you under their wing and showed you around, or?
Yes, of course. I mean, all the players that were there, all the seniors that were there were extremely, I don't know how to say it. They were so helpful in terms of guiding us through the drills or guiding us through the rugby specific drills, the training specific drills, because for us in school, training meant run 10 rounds, do your warm up. But here the warm up was very different. It was specific. So like when I joined rugby was the first time I heard the term burpees. So I used to always call it bumpies, bumpies.
Okay.
So that's when the girls, would say that, okay, you do it like this. And there are many other instances where, in handball, I was a goalkeeper. So I'd always be at the back of the entire team. And I would see the entire game being played. When I started playing rugby, the first few games that we had, I was standing behind the entire team. And rugby well. We all play in one line. So the girls were like, you cannot stand there. You're going to make us weak. You need to come in front. So very guiding were our seniors. So it was absolutely. I mean, apart from the coaches, the seniors and the girls who were there before guided us new girls very very well.
I see. And the reason I brought this up is because really I feel my introduction to rugby has been through some of the stuff that I've seen through you. Not the sport, I knew about it, and I definitely don't hold those common misconceptions that you keep getting. You are asked all the time about, like, yeah, are you trying to, like, pulverize the other team, or beat each other? Like, I definitely knew about that, but I didn't know any players. But the first thing I saw when I saw the team was, I got to say, I felt like, first of all, you're the captain, but you are like a strong woman, right? So I could tell that the team was kind of revolved around in you. Maybe, and this is just my understanding, I felt like you are probably the person who's helping the team, and of course, you're the captain. But I was wondering if there were people who kind of took you under their wing and first showed you how to do this, or you were one of the first pioneers to start this here.
No, in fact, I was very lucky to be a part of one of the best teams in India, which is the Pune team. And we had seniors like the lady who was the first captain of the women's team. Her name is Avni Sabre. Then we had Surbi Date, and we had many other girls who were who led by example. And when I would look at them and how they would behave and how they would carry themselves, how they would talk to the other players, I picked up these skills from them. So I knew that at some point in time I would have to lead the team, just in terms of hierarchy. So I could not be like, okay, this is not my thing, because initially I was like, uh, I had this, I don't know why I had this thought that a player can't play well if they're a captain. So I would just, keep away from that thought. But then as I grew into the sport, I realized that, this is a very new sport and we've joined the game as it has kick-started in India. So there is going to be a time when I will have to rise up to the occasion to be captain. And that's when I opened my eyes, ears, all my senses to see how my immediate seniors as well as the captains of different teams are leading their teams. And that's how I picked up a little bit from here and there. In regards to what you were saying, our general the body type of a woman is very petite, is timid. She's not you don't see big women generally around unless they're fat. So there is so all the athletic, all our girls come from West Bengal, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, Bihar, Delhi. So only the girls from Delhi have a little bit of size, and the girls from Maharashtra also have a little bit of size, but the rest of them are very tinily built. So when we are playing internationally, obviously those women, they're big, they're genetically big.
Yeah.
So these girls feel a little bit intimidated, and in order to support them, one of us is always next to them. That just in case, she needs that extra help behind her, we're there.
I see. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
actually one of the things I did notice too when I was looking at the team, and I saw some of the team through like the videos and stuff, and I don't know if the roster might have changed now, but it definitely looked like, I have to say, like, it definitely looked like you definitely feel like the person who's in command of the team, and you have, I guess, like the muscle mass, the strength, and this is just while looking at you. Then I saw you run, and you have the speed and the quickness and all that as well. But the thing that came out to the question that came to my mind initially was, I was just wondering about the same thing. I was like, what about the other teams? Like, it was really nice. We all know about, like, sports in general in India, apart from cricket. It's a bit tough. But then on top of that, I guess if a preference does go, it generally goes to like men's team first, just I guess because of physicality or whatever it is. But then to see that like from your interviews, I kind of figured out that you were lucky and, you were always encouraged to, exercise, and it was never a problem. Those typical questions like, was it hard for you? And you said, no, it was pretty, like my family encouraged me, which is great. But what about these other girls?
So the other girls that come, they come from very humble backgrounds. Some of them are daughters of farmers, of tea farmers, of just general farmers, of laborers. Some of them study in the girls who come from Odisha, at least they study in an institute called the Kalinga Institute. So where all their entire education is completely taken care of. So these are the Adivasi girls. Now these girls initially, so I'm talking back 2000, between 2009 to 2012. I'm talking between that phase where not the parents, but the society around the parents, or the parents' friends or the relatives would keep being like demotivating the parents and thus the girl, that why are you choosing such a sport? This has one, though it's a contact sport. What if you get hit on your face? What if you get fractured? Who's going to take care of you? If you have to get married, if you're going to get married like a cripple, then who's going to, you need to take care of your next house. So the whole concept was around marriage and education of a woman's future.
Right.
But it took a good 4 5 years for the women's team and the back end office and the union to change that concept and that mindset that, what, women play this sport, and it is a contact sport, that but does not mean we are going there to get injured. We are going there to play a game, you know. So it's taken a lot of time and a lot of dropouts and a lot of trial and error and girls coming in and out, and to be able to change that mindset and that system. And I must say, we have reached that point where these same women who are playing with us now in the team, so who started back then and who are still continuing, they tell us that, nowadays our family and the society around, they tell other girls to join whatever I am doing, because they have no clue of what rugby is. They just know that the girls play sport and they're not doing education and they're not doing ghar ka kaam. So they're doing this other thing. So they tell the other girls that, go and do this, because you see how this developed this girl. And these women have, they've barely like gone from one village to another or one state to another. And these girls have traveled countries because of the sport. And their parents and their villagers back at home have seen the difference within them personally and how it's impacted them as a family. So they are very encouraging now to the next generation of women to go ahead and pursue this sport.
That's incredible. I feel like this had to be said because I didn't know. I was thinking, as I wonder, because I know you in Pune, right? So it's easier, like you train right there. But what about all the girls that are coming from these different parts? And of course, that classic mindset. And, and that's what I thought, like, it's not just about like the women's team having a bit of an extra advantage in any sport, but just sports in general, right? Like even here in Canada, when people ask me, I'm like, man, I, by the way, played no sports when I was growing up, but I was a bit lucky in the sense that I was a military brat. So, just by the virtue of my dad being in the army, like he used to just kick us out of the house, our parents, like just go do something. So, I used to play around just as that. And I was a little physical just because of that, but never played a sport. And I realized when I went back when I started my physiotherapy college, I was like, man, while I'm, in within my group of like the military kids and that environment, I was like maybe at the bottom of as soon as I came to physiotherapy, I was like one of the top, top. Because I was like, wow, I didn't really do anything for this, but but that was, anyways, I just thought about that. But this brings me to one of the things that I want to ask you. So that was the mental aspect of it, right? So that's the families encouraging them and sending them, and some of them coming from Orissa, and and I've been to like some places in Orissa, and like you said, there's a lot of Adivasi tribes there, and so for them to make that journey from like whatever state to here in itself is commendable, which just tells us about mental fortitude of the girls who decide to like leave everything behind from the village and come in a new city and try something. That's commendable. But then that is like the mental toughness, and no doubt, like I guess there's second to none in that. But what about the physical part? Coming back to that, right? Like when I look at you and I see the sport, I'm like, nobody's going to like push over Vahbiz, like, but some of the other players, like when they come in, and as you know, like to gain muscle mass is not like maybe a 2 month thing, probably 2-3 years or something like that.
So that is definitely something that we lack in, but how we use that to our strength is that we are very swift and we're very fast. So yes, when it comes down to stopping the opponent, uh, we might need two of those girls to stop an opponent. But when they have the ball and we're attacking, these girls just go underneath and just like zip, 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 and they're gone. So if you see some of our sprinters like Hoopy or Sweetie, they're tiny. They come up to my shoulder, but they are so fast. They'll just step in from here, and you blink and you'll miss them.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So our advantage is that we're a faster team,
Right.
not particularly a big team.
But is that the goal?
What is the goal?
Like, do you want to get big, like as a team? Is it always something that you're trying to
So
train us?
we have a new we have a new team of coaches which are from South Africa, and he had our coach is Mr. Nas Botha. He is a South African legend in rugby. So he came to watch the Indian team train, and he looks at all the girls and he says, "Okay, so where are the forwards?" And you know that there are two types. There's backs and there's forwards in rugby. So the backs are the ones who do all the sprinting work, and the forwards are the ones who do all the contact and the hitting work.
Grunt work.
Yeah, all the dirty work the forwards do, and these backs just go ahead and take the ball and run off.
Right.
So what? So when Nas Botha saw the team, he said, "Okay, this is all great, but where are the forwards?" And he meant to say, "Where are the big girls?" Because there was just a handful. There was two, three of us, and our union now CEO, he turned around and he said that, oh, "Sorry, coach, this is the team. This is the set of girls that you have to work with." So he was quite taken aback by the size, because where he comes from in South Africa, there's big women and there's tall women and there's stocky women. So he was quite in a cultural shock. So they all, as a team of coaches, decided that the girls need to get more mass and they need to get stronger, because to when we get into the scrum where necks are like interlocked, and we're 8 people here, 8 people here, all that matters is the weight of the scrum at that point of time. So if the opposition scrum is weighing, I don't know, maybe 300, 350 kilos, we should be weighing that much, or at least be able to withstand that kind of force.
Which I presume in some of the international competitions might have been that disparity, right? Like you might have
Absolutely, yeah.
felt that difference.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So against a team like Philippines, which is not particularly fast, but they're short and stout.
Right.
But they're stout in terms of their size, and also some of them in terms of their build or their muscle. So when they get into a scrum against us, like the first three of us in Team India are big, but the next few are maybe shorter, or not matching up to the size of the opponent. We definitely we're able to hold it, but we struggle against a team like Philippines.
I see. So then I guess like to work on that would be, I guess, off-season strength and conditioning and stuff like that.
One is off-season strength and conditioning. Second is also scouting players that have the size.
Right.
So developing and finding out players like from the north of India, from the south of India. We have very big girls. I mean, we have some big sizes out there. So be able to scout that talent, train them, get them into the system, and so on and so forth is the other way to work.
Right. This is just my, like, very, I guess, naive understanding of, or even sometimes when I think why probably rugby is, of course, cricket takes the majority of the blame for that, I feel, right? That it just takes, it's like just hounds away most of the limelight from all the other sports. But one of the things I also feel like in my mind why probably rugby now is gaining momentum in the country, but is not, is because I don't think we as a society, at least for the last couple of years, weren't embracing physicality, I guess, the way we should. Like, what I mean by that is, I don't know if you feel the same, but so I left India in about 2010, and I keep going back and forth. But back then, like when you spoke about exercise, exercise would have been, run around a little bit, basically running,
Yeah,
and weight
yeah,
training was less. And even if it was, maybe I didn't know the athletes who were training, but generally, I'm talking about people in general, right? If you're not physical and if you're not into, I don't know, maybe not just bodybuilding weights, but say if you have to do some like squats, deadlifts, stuff like that, if you're not into physicality, then you won't probably be drawn into physical sports as well. This is just my understanding, because I never saw like CrossFit or things like that before say 2010. Maybe a few,
yeah.
what is the boxes? Yeah, maybe a few boxes, but
The
I was like,
box.
yeah, we're not as physical. But now it seems to be changing a lot and really fast.
Yeah, definitely. I think what helps a country like India a lot is medals at credible tournaments. So, like an Olympics or Commonwealth Games or Asian Games, when our wrestlers do well or our boxers do well. So, when Maricom won, there was this whole phase of contact sport happening. And then when Geeta, Babita, Nick, what's her name? Sakshi Malik, and all these girls, they started proving their mettle and they started proving it at the world stage. That's when our country opened their eyes and was like, oh, this happens too, and this is a great sport too. So after a movie like Dangal, which glorified wrestling so much, the amount of girls that joined wrestling akhadas was unreal. I mean, uh, you can't even count. It was that much because everyone now wants to push their child into something that will build them into something bigger that's just the sport.
Really, like
Or
that's fascinating.
sorry.
I said that's fascinating because see, I didn't know that. I couldn't see that. So, like, remember us growing up? Like, there was no such thing as focus on your sports. You play around, like and again,
Yeah.
I was lucky. You go and play outside, but you're not making a career out of it.
Precisely. So now, because of that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. That because of these women who have, and women, I'm talking about women, because men have done it through history, through time. But in our time, we only knew like a PT Usha or an Anju Bobby George. It was just one, two names. But now you can. It's more than the fingers on your hand. So the amount of women that have put that hard work to prove themselves at a world stage, uh, the people who are watching, and people are watching, everybody is watching, and it also depends a lot on how much media covers, but people are watching and they are more convinced about where sport is going in the country. So people are looking at enrolling their kids into different kinds of sport, and
And
they're willing for their child to try different things and like what and stick what they like to want to do.
right. And I also feel, do you think this could also be a part of the fact that, again, same thing, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was all about if especially women wanted to get fit, they were encouraged to run. But then
Yeah,
now, like, strength is being embraced as, like, strong
yeah,
is beautiful and you can
yeah,
deadlift and squat and stuff like that. But before, it
yeah.
was like, oh, just go out for a run, or something.
Yeah, I also a mindset. Well, the first time I went to a gym was when I was 14, and I remember back then when I used to go and lift some weight and under guidance. A lot of people in the gym, in fact, used to tell me that why are you lifting weight? You're going to remain short, or it's going to be bad for your joints because you're a growing child. And back then also it didn't make sense to me, but now also when I now fast forward a few years, 16, 15, 16 years, and I see that mentality changing where people are enrolling their children into a gym setup where it will help them in their sport, which is a huge change, and it's a huge mindset change that has taken place.
Yeah, I see. And I
the
think,
whole the whole that whole revolution of going to the gym, lifting weight, especially after a person like Usain Bolt has said it. He said it in one of his interviews where he said that all the effort and time I have put on to the track and field for my running, I wish I had done a little bit of work in the gym. It would have helped me that much more. So when a person like that makes a statement such, and he is all muscle, that man. When you look at him, you can just see all the muscles in his body. You can identify it as well. So when a man like him has to say something like that, you know, newbies, amateurs, just people entering into the sporting line, they all it clicks that, oh, this is important. And
Hmm.
if a man like that is talking about it in terms of regret, this is something we can do to avoid that happening with us.
Right, right. Yeah, it's definitely impactful, I feel. But I feel like that probably would be good for like not just being an athlete, but I guess also being a physio too, right? With everybody, I guess.
Definitely. I think all physiotherapists need to be put through an entire uh, practical session of all the spectrum of exercises, right from the running to the lifting to the body weight to the plyometric to the jumping to everything. The physios should be exposed to it, because at some point in your life, even though you think you're going to sit in a clinic and take somebody's uh, history across a table, you're going to have to show them some exercise at some point of time uh, in your career life. So you're gonna have to go through it to be able to understand it, to be able to prescribe it, because we prescribe exercises.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to give you a little bit of an example of myself, right? So when I graduated, and we'll get to the physio part of it. When I graduated and I went on to pursue my master's of exercise science, so I did that in the US. When I did went to do that, here's my knowledge of, I knew about all these techniques. Okay, I can use this to treat whatever, neck issues or tennis elbow, and I knew all these like techniques. But exercise wise, I was like, man, I don't think I know a lot, honestly. And I don't know how your program for physiotherapy was, but I know ours did not cover like, all these compound movements and strength and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? It was very
No, they
rehab
don't.
focused. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I went for my master's in exercise science, I have to tell you, I always tell my friends, whoever, whenever we talk about this, when I went for this, first off, there were few of us Indians, and I went to New York to this university, and I guess the other classmates who came in who were Americans were just bigger than us. We're like, whoa, like I'm in the right class. I'm looking around, we all physios, and I look at these guys, they're huge. Though we had a bit of advantage, I'd say. Just a side note, that we could sit and we could study for like, our professors would, teach us for like maybe more than 2 hours, and we're like, yeah, 2 hours is nothing. And these guys, like, they were like, oh, like we had enough of it.
Okay.
But I just remembered the first time, I wanted to know. So I was exploring the university. I was new a little, trying to figure things out here. So I saw the gym area. I was like, but this is not where athletes train. This is what we see in like, our gyms in India. Everybody's doing their own exercise or bodybuilding or whatever, like any exercise. But then I was, where do the athletes train? So one of the guys said, when you go to, in our college used to be called as a dungeon, so he's like, that's where only the student athletes train. So they sent us down,
Okay.
and the first time I went there, the strength and conditioning coach for Long Island University was an Olympian from Jamaica in the 100 meter. Yeah, and he had since then moved to the US, and now he was the strength and conditioning coach there. So here was my first experience, right? It was so, I guess, funny when I look back now. I go inside the weight room, right? And right from outside, I can hear huge banging, like somebody's dropping weight.
Alarm.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is that? Like, did somebody fall or something? So I go inside, and everybody's working out. So it was basically the men's basketball and the women's volleyball team training there. So I go inside and I'm
Oh
talking.
wow.
I introduce myself to the guy who's like the strength and conditioning coach, Richard James, and I was just talking to him. And there's a guy next to him who's doing power cleans there, and I don't even know what this is. Like, what power cleans? So this guy, he lifts the weight up and then he drops it down on the platform. And while I'm talking to him, as soon as the weight falls, I just, flinch. I was like, what
Sure.
the? And everybody else, it's so normal for them. So this guy understood
Yeah.
that he's not been exposed to this, because why is he like flinching at the weights dropping?
Yeah.
So that happened while my conversation was going on for 5 minutes. He dropped it a couple of times. Every time I would be like, so now I'm kind of used to it. I've seen huge weights being dropped and stuff. The first time I saw that, I was like, that's incredible. And I looked at this guy. He was my classmate who was, by the way, lifting these weights. So I asked
Okay
him, I said,
then.
yeah, it was crazy. I said, like, but I know this guy's a sprinter, So this was one of my first questions to understand the world of, say, strength and conditioning. It's like, he's a sprinter. Why is he doing this? So I think what I remember from what he said was like, what's the starting position of a sprinter? So I was like, yeah, when he's kind of down, and he's like, as soon as the shot is fired and you go, like, what is the first energy system you use? It's that explosive power. And when he lifts the weight out of the ground, that's what he's training for.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and I'm like, I was like, wow. For me, coming from my physio background, for me, training meant like what you said initially, some few minutes ago, is like run around the ground a couple of times. I was like, that's crazy. So you mean like, sprinters have to lift heavy weights? And he's looking at me, he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, you have a lot of catching up to do. So,
Yeah, yeah,
so that,
absolutely. Yeah.
that was my introduction to like understanding what athletes do. But my physio, like, courses did not cover all of that. Did you have like similar
Yeah.
experience like that?
No, no, we had one lecturer who covered body weight training and who covered a bit of plyometrics with us, just in to make us understand what is what.
Okay.
So we had maybe one or two sessions over it, but not more than that. But weight training, absolutely not covered, because I think that becomes very sports specific. And if you see in the bachelor's course, there is nothing sports specific that is there apart from the uh, I don't know, when they give these case studies that are there. Apart from that, there is nothing which covers sport
Hmm.
in the bachelor's degree I'm talking about. So I think that's where there's a disconnect, because like you said, exercise for us is a rehabilitation. Like, okay, now you do this many squats and you do these many lunges and you do this with a TheraBand, and
Okay.
in a country like India, sometimes we say use bottles for using weight
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So our mind is conditioned or trained to think only like that. We can't think out of the box, or we can't think beyond static exercises.
And maybe I'll come back to this and ask you this question in a bit about like, Vabis, what's the solution to this for the physio community? But I want to go back to like a bit of your physio journey, because I know you've been asked a lot of questions about the sport and stuff like that, but like we haven't covered. And that's one of the things, you're a physio. That's one of the things that got me so excited. Was I wanted to delve a bit into your physio journey as well.
Right. So I joined physiotherapy in 2011. That's when
Okay.
I started my bachelor's course. And what made me join physiotherapy was I was at my first international tournament for rugby in 2009. We'd gone to Thailand, and that's when I noticed, what a physiotherapist does. So I saw this guy typically with shorts and a nice t-shirt, fit fellow, having a waist sling around his waist, carrying all the first aid kit, and running around helping his teammates, la 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 la. And every team had their own physiotherapist. We had our own physiotherapist too. So that really got my eye and in my interest as well. So I got back home, read about what physiotherapy is, and my mind was sort of decided that I'm going to do physiotherapy. So I went through the what a physiotherapist does, who is a physiotherapist. I understood, oh, great, great, this is what I want to do. So that's when the journey began. So I had to do 11, 12 science, took that up, and here I am, bam, in 2011 in physiotherapy school. And I entered the classroom, and I entered the classroom in the worst attire ever. So I just finished my practice. So I had practice 6 to 7, and we would stay on the ground for a little more just to do our stretching. So by 7:30, I left the ground, and college was at 8 or 8:30 or something like that. So it was on the way. So it was ground, college, home. So I said I'll finish college and go home. That's how I used to always do it. So I go to college in my track pants, sweatshirt, and a helmet with sweaty hair, and I enter the bachelor's classroom, okay, and a first year classroom, and I open the door and I excuse myself. So, is this the first year classroom? So the guy looks at me and he's like, yes. And I'm looking at everybody in the class, and everybody is well dressed, in the women in all the girls are in their salwar kameez, all their t-shirts and with long jeans, and the boys were dressed up also very decently. So I was looking at the classroom. I think I've come to a senior class.
Right.
And the lecturer goes, yes. And my first lecture was physiology, which I got 8 for. So he looks at me and he says, yes, this is the first year bachelor's course. What's up? And I said, sir, I'm actually a part of this class. So he looks at his watch and he says, you're late. I said, I'm sorry, sir. I had practice and this is my first day in college. So I'm still getting accustomed to it. He said, okay, come and sit. And the whole classroom was just like looking at me. What the hell has just walked inside? Obviously, they were very fascinated because very different body build, different clothes, different personality altogether, and everybody was just so curious about what the hell has just walked into our classroom. There were a lot of faces that I knew there. So some of my friends, we studied in the same coaching classes, etc. So I knew a lot of people. So got introduced to everybody in the classroom then through them. Uh, so I thought I'm going to be assigned to a team. We're going to be taught how to deal with the team, and so my mindset was still stuck in Thailand of that of those fit physiotherapists.
Right.
And I look at this guy who's teaching us physiology, and I'm like, why is he talking to us so seriously? Where is the team? Why is he dressed up in formal attire? Why isn't he wearing shorts? These questions are going on in my mind. And then I realized that none of that happens in physiotherapy. You have to sit in a classroom.
Oh my God, where are the cones? Why am I not in the field?
Exactly. I said, where is the ball? Where are the cones? Where's the team? Who are we going to be assigned with?
Yeah.
And I just realized that I'm going to have to spend 4.5 years within a concrete building and max walk from the college to the hospital, and that's about it.
Right.
No, this can't be it. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But then whatever. First year happened. Second year was obviously quite tedious. So all of that happened, and yeah, I graduated.
I see. And I wanted to ask you, what college did you go to?
I went to Sancheti.
Oh, Sancheti. I don't know. Yeah, so I also went to physiotherapy college in Pune. I went to D.Y. Patil.
You went to D.Y. Patil. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. This is the one in Pimpri, Pune.
Yeah.
Outside, yeah. So when you were initially telling me about Pune, I have a bit of connection to Pune, and I was there for a little bit. Sancheti was always I guess within Pune, the top college you wanted to make it to.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
So my experience of physiotherapy, when I first got into it, was also kind of interesting. Though I didn't have that perspective, I wasn't expecting sports and stuff. But you reminded me of a funny anecdote about when I first entered. The same thing. You guys were lucky, guys. I got to say, by the way, Vahbiz, because you could wear jeans. We couldn't wear jeans.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why. Sorry.
So when we got to third year and fourth year, when we had to attend clinics, was when some rule had been applied about a dress code. And for the first year and second year, I also, by the way, Abhijit, once I also turned up in shorts in my college.
Oh,
and everybody from
that's got to be the biggest, I guess, talk of
everybody from the watchman to the principal, everybody was just looking at me the second time because it was a rule, no shorts in college.
Yeah.
And I happily wore these 3/4 and went to college. And friends are just here.
Yeah.
I happily wore these 3/4 and went to college, and they looked at me, and then somebody told my immediate seniors to turn around and tell me that I'm not allowed to wear shorts, and I'm happily sitting over there eating my lunch. And this one girl comes up to me with her friend, and she's like, listen, Bobby. I said, hey, yeah, what's up, Nami? She said, why are you wearing shorts? I said, because I like shorts. She said, you know that you're not allowed to wear shorts, right? I said, no, I don't know that. You're not allowed to wear shorts? What a boring place this is. Why are you allowed to wear shorts? Shorts are the best thing to wear. It's comfortable attire.
Yeah.
She said, yes, but you're in a very professional course, and you cannot wear shorts and go to a hospital. So they're building you up to that. It's like, oh shit, damn.
Yeah.
So sad. So then I shift. So then I wore jeans every day to college, and then they came up with a rule that the women, the girls, had to wear a kurta knee length, and the boys had to wear formal shirts which had to be tucked inside. Now I get the mindset as to why that had to be done and for what was the purpose, but they were pushing it with terms of that and those terms. And I only wore kurtas at traditional events or at a formal event. That was my formal wear. I'm not wearing a kurta to college. It just does not fit in my mindset to wear a kurta to college. It just does not go together. So,
what a story it would be, like the captain of the women's Indian team is forced to wear kurtas to college while she wants to play all the time. Like, that's what I felt too. I think you guys were I got to say, like, and I'm just saying this jokingly, you guys were the spoiled lot in physiotherapy because you got to wear jeans. We didn't even get to wear jeans, you know. We guys were told, like, when we first went in there, it was you got to wear trousers, shirt, you know, everything's tucked in, the white apron on top. It's like 35 degrees outside, and you have to wear full sleeves and all. And I never understood. And
Ouch.
I think, why am I supposed to wear this, and why am I, you know, how can I work in this? How can I operate, do my job in this?
Precisely.
And it's
Yeah.
always the same thing. It's about respect of the apron, respect. I think we spend a lot of time worrying about these like other frivolous things which
Yes.
we don't have to, and really focus on the thing that is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you think about it, one of our lecturers, in fact, he had forwarded a very insightful image to us about how, for a man, and it was a picture of a man and a woman. The guy basically wearing formal attire, like a cuffed shirt, very smart looking, with what do you call that, a stethoscope around his neck, and he's a physiotherapist. And the same a woman with the sari and the works. So then it described that how functional can these people be in these attires, and thus the most comfortable clothing to wear are scrubs in a hospital setup or as a uniform, because you can do whatever movements you want. It's short sleeve, it's uniform, it's not untidy, and at the same time you get the work done by demonstrating what you want to be done. And Abhijit, you won't believe, I actually was in a scenario such where I was asked to assist in one of the under 19 tournaments here in India. Be an assisted a medic on field. I went in my shorts and my, like, the usual attire. Uh, this happened 2 years ago, and I had to assist somebody. So I went onto the field and I said, "Who is the main doctor here?" So this lady, I kid you not, she's wearing that cricket hat. That
Mhm.
she's sitting on a chair with a lab coat in a sari with her hands crossed,
Oh my God.
slouched, and she's looking at the girls playing. And somebody pointed out to her and said, "वो मैडम है." I said, "But ये तो साड़ी में है ये. How is she going to run onto the field? How am I supposed to assist her?" She said, "No, no." She sends the she sends the other fellow and tells him to go and check. And if he can't check from there, he calls her. So she goes walking in her little platforms
Oh man.
in her sari. I kid you not, Abhijitu. I was so embarrassed at that point in time. That what are these people doing?
Right.
That okay, you're trained in a certain way, and that's fine. But you're in a sporting environment, and you're going to be expected to get onto the field and help the players. So she walks onto the field literally, okay, with hand in the pocket and you know trudging along a mucky field, and very very disturbed that her sari is getting dirty.
Oh my God.
And this guy, he seemed to have twisted his ankle or his knee or something. So he was sitting in the typical, holding that leg in pain. And she goes and she taps his shoulder and says, "Aap theek ho?"
Oh man.
And I saw this from the sideline, and I was just like,
Oh
uh, uh, I'm like, "You're gonna go and ask a player if he's fine.
yeah, that's
He's clearly in pain." So with respect to the dress code, what you said was very very poignant actually. About we pay so much attention to these things, so they matter. They definitely matter, and it's absolutely incorrect to be on the other side of the spectrum where you're just all shabby and nobody wants to be treated by you. So yes, there need to be certain guidelines about what clothes you should wear, but really it should not be a force. I don't think. I think we pay too much attention on that.
yeah. I
We
think
pay we're paying less attention
yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah.
we're paying lesser attention on the quality of the product as opposed to how the product is looking.
100%. Yeah, that's what I feel like. I can't even imagine like how a doctor wearing a sari would operate like on the field, especially in a sport like rugby. You know, I don't know if it was something else where somebody, I don't know, twisted their finger playing chess. You could just ask them, but I don't know. It's weird, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to
Yeah,
bring
yeah,
on too is because of all these things. You know, the positive things that I've heard from you, just in terms of like the mindset and change of girls coming from these countries, and like people embracing, more exercise, getting aware about this, and now even like, the dress code thing. Yeah, hopefully, like, we don't spend or worry too much about it, or even if we do, and if you're forced to do it in college, hopefully when you get past it, like you're like, that's it, we don't have to worry about these
Yeah,
things now, and now you can.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, in fact, we had in fourth year, I don't know if you all had a subject called ethics. It was a graded subject.
Hmm.
So in ethics, it was very interesting how the dress code was not at all a part of that.
Right,
It was basically about how you behave with a patient. So
right,
you could be really well dressed, but if you're going to turn around and shout at the patient, abuse the patient, act badly with the patient, your dress sense is all gone down the drain. Then nobody gives a f of how you're dressed.
yeah,
They care, as opposed to if you just go in a t-shirt or and jeans, and you go and you actually show empathy and you are able to treat that patient,
right,
because that's what you're there for. You're not there for a fashion show,
yeah,
but you're able to go and treat that person and maintain a very respectable camaraderie. I, I think I think that's what was covered for us in ethics, and a lot of and we, at least in Sanjay, they were very lucky to have teachers, lecturers, uh, all our seniors who walked that talk.
right,
So it was not only that they were dressed well, that was a part of the story, but they would be treating their patients so well,
right,
you know.
yeah,
And that is something that I took from college, that how my seniors and how my lecturers would behave with their patients.
right, yeah. So, Vabit, I want to ask you about your like college experience. I feel like I don't know. This is my first Zoom meeting, and I put in 1 hour. Does it just close after an hour?
Yeah. Not Zoom, no. Instagram closes
Oh,
after.
thank God. Okay, so I was
Just
like,
1 second. Actually, I think even Zoom does. Yeah, it closes in an hour.
okay. And I won't want to take a lot of your time, but if I, I'll try to ask some questions. I don't know. Hopefully, if you kind of enjoyed this, we could have you on back sometime on some certain time when I could, because
Definitely.
I feel like I've only scratched to 20% of the stuff.
You really have, yes.
Yeah, and I haven't even gone to like some of the details, but I want to start with what about how was your overall bachelor physiotherapy experience, like just good and bad stuff, you know?
So the great stuff was that my mindset changed about physiotherapy a lot. It was not just about running on the field and helping players, but it was actually about helping a larger spectrum of people.
Hmm.
And today, something that I was very against in college, which was neurophysiotherapy and cardiorespiratory physiotherapy, are one of the key things that I am actually working in right now with my patients. And I must say that I take a lot of interest in it. So that has been a great positive for me. Another one I told you about how I would look at how my seniors and how my lecturers were behaving with how my professors were in terms of their behavior, and I have imbibed a lot of how they have been. Negatives, really none. I think again we touched upon it that a lot of attention is given to very stupid things like attires and how you keep your hair and all these things that with just the exterior. A lot of importance is given to the exterior. So I think that is one thing that could have changed. Maybe should not have been given so much importance to. Um,
What about the academics and everything? Like, what was your experience with the whole program as such?
so I thought it's going to be like 11th and 12th. That it's going to be difficult, but I'll clear it. But second year didn't prove me wrong, and I didn't clear. So I got a half year backlog, and then you're in I sort of figured that there is this system where they identify these weaker students and just they like choose you out of the entire lot and say fail.
No.
you know.
I
So
see.
anyway, so I had a backlog in second year, and then whatever went through college half year back, and in fourth year, you will not believe one of the papers that I was the best. I mean, I wouldn't say best, but went really nice, which was community-based rehab. They failed me in that. So I did massively well in my practical, but in my theory, they gave me like, I don't know, that 35 was for whatever, 50 was passing. They gave me 49. I said, Arey, at least fail me properly. Don't fail me like with
Yeah,
one mark like this.
I see.
So, so that I felt really, really sorry about. But anyway, get on with life and you do what
Yeah.
you must. So, so that's about it in terms of my positives and negatives. Yeah.
That was
In terms of the academics,
sorry.
in terms of the academics, I think every subject was very, very vital and important in building up to the fourth year and creating creating a mindset, creating a thought process. You can't think with your blinkers on. It has to be, you have to know everything, and then you can create your own little bubble of knowledge. So that's actually something which is very, very good. And one of my seniors actually had told me,
Bobby, sorry to cut.
pharmacology.
Sorry to cut you off for a
Yeah,
second. I feel like in another minute this might log off. Are you okay to join in for another like 15-20 minutes if that's.
yeah, sure, no issue. I hope it doesn't shut though, but
I hope so too.
whatever, if it doesn't.
I've just seen too
Okay.
many like Zoom podcasts going wrong with, people trying to figure out cameras falling.
Yeah.
And I knew I'm going to be one of those people with, I'm like, kya ho raha hai? Can someone help me? So anyway, so good to know. Sir. Okay, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so one of my seniors had advised me very well in a subject like pharmacology, where you have for one particular type of drug, you have 3, 4 names. So I would learn only one name because that's all I could remember. And she'd say, don't do that. Learn those 3, 4 names. Then you'll remember one. If you're going to learn only one, you'll remember nothing. So in the similar format, the kind of subjects that we had, which covered a lot, it created this thought process in our head that, okay, do you want to be thinking on this line or do you want to be thinking on that line? I think that way the academic was actually very well planned.
And do you,
Obviously, there's stuff that can be more specific out there because there are a lot of things in the textbook which are not absolutely not practically driven,
right.
and they just remain in the textbooks. So I think something like shortwave diathermy and those infrared and all of these things can be, I think they can be left as these used to be the treatment methods, but now it's this, and show more advanced stuff and make people make these guys learn more advanced ways of treatment or modalities as opposed to teaching something which is dinosaur age.
Which is like pretty much what when I was growing up, like in my college and everything, this is what was primary mode of treatment, and I have
Yeah.
to say, like, I have written like on one of my blogs a couple of years ago, I wrote many times about what I thought were some of the fallacies with our education system and what are certain good things about us. And one of the things was, and it was to be honest, like I couldn't really blame anybody, even the college, because even I was 18, I was like whatever, didn't think too much at that time about, like, I wasn't really I guess laser focused or razor focused like I am now, but at that time I was like whatever, and these were the primary modes of treatment, like what you said. Now I had totally forgot about
Yeah.
infrared, but infrared, SWD were the main things.
Yeah, yeah. And which is, when you look back, you're thinking that, shit, I just wasted that entire practical session learning about something that is, number one, been banned in some country.
Right,
Number two, it is not even used in your own country.
right,
Number three, you will never use it in your future because its production is going to stop.
right,
So why are you wasting your time learning about its practicality when you're not even going to apply it? So learn it as a history. Okay, these used to be,
right,
but advance, move ahead. Talk about how you can make a hot pack for a person who does not have a hot pack. What are you going to do? How are you going to improvise? Think out of the box.
wow, yeah,
And then after fourth, when a person gets out of fourth year and is in their internship and they're posted in a government hospital where the patient has no money to buy anything, so you're telling them to do icing, but he doesn't have a fridge, he doesn't have an ice pack, is दूर की बात, but
hmm,
he doesn't have these things. So what is your next suggestion to him? What are you going to tell him? And this is the kind of thought process you want to start training the physiotherapists to do. Because you can't just say that, oh, अगर आपके पास आइस है तो आपको आपका जो दर्द है वो रहने वाला है. You can't say that. You have to improvise. You have to give that patient an option because they are helpless.
True.
And you are the one who is trained or certified to help.
Yeah.
So you should do that to the best of your capability.
Right. Right. And I want to ask you about your program, especially in Sancheti. Do you think it was more of, in terms of when your training, was it more like a modality-based treatment training, or was it more like exercise
No.
or manual therapy?
No, in fact, from the time of second year, we were sent for practical clinics, and we were sent to the hospital to jot down history, and we were sent a lot for our clinics. So we had a lot of on-ground practical experience when it came to Sanskrit. And one thing that was there was the students would ask for it. So it was not like the students didn't want to do it. The students also asked for it, and at the same time, the teachers were the institution was very happy to give us that opportunity. So uh, we learned a lot in the hospitals.
I see.
Because that's where the reality is. It's not in your college in those cubicles. It's out there.
100%. Yeah.
So even though we
graduated.
so even though we were jotting down history, we were just in second year and we were still learning the whole history taking process and the demographic, everything. What was important was we were seeing these people bang on in front of us, how they would talk, what was their respiratory rate, how was their heart beating, tiny things, and that's where, you learn and you pick up.
I see. So now currently in your practice, like you were mentioning, are you more, do you see all kinds of conditions? Are you more inclined towards orthopedic or neurological and cardiorespiratory?
No, I see all types of conditions. So I have obviously majority are ortho.
Yeah.
After that, I have neuro cases.
What kind of setting are you based out of? Like, where do you work in?
I do home visits. So I go to their homes and treat them.
Okay. And you saying cardio and neuro?
Yeah, so largely my population is orthopedic.
Okay.
Then neuro, then cardio, and then CBR is like a mix of both.
Got it. Okay. And I wanted to.
And sports comes and goes. So when an athlete needs or is in off season and needs me, I'm there, and then they go off again. So that's very come and go.
Got it. And now, again, like I think I could ask you more physiotherapy questions for another 2 hours, but maybe for another time. We'll go back to your athlete hat, right? I just wanted to ask you quick. What about? Are you also the captain and the team physiotherapist, or there's a separate physiotherapist?
There's a separate. So when I am playing, I'm just a player and I'm not the physiotherapist. So we have another physiotherapist who comes. But when I'm not playing, they do consider me as a physiotherapist for the junior team.
Okay. And so what is your I should have been a little more specific. They wouldn't be like, okay, captain, please leave your captaincy and come in,
No, but the thing happens that Vijit is when we are in camp, our physios do not be with us throughout the camp because it's a 2 or a 3 week camp and they cannot take that kind of leave from their existing jobs. So within the camp time, if a player needs or if she's got a cramp or if she's got a knee pain, so they definitely do come up to me during the break hours and take some suggestions from me. Sure.
I see. But I think that's going to give Team India definitely an edge over, I guess, other. Well, I don't know about other teams, but I think the little edge that the captain knows, I guess a little bit of triage or whatever. And I did see I was just reading a little bit about like your qualifications too, and you're also part of the World Rugby Medical
Educator. Yeah. So I was also going to come to that where a couple of us people who are in the rugby fraternity already and are qualified, we were sponsored to do this course. So the World Rugby is the parent organization for rugby around the world, and they have these courses that happen globally. So they have this course called the first aid in rugby. So there's a medical course, and it's a 3-tier course. So there's the first aid, there's the immediate care, and then there's the third level.
Okay.
So I've done till my level 2, where it's pitch side care. It's first aid. It's just all there. So the first aid in rugby is basically a module that is meant for players, coaches, parents, everybody. So anybody attending a rugby match knows that if a player gets concussed, not to go there and whack it on its head and say get up.
Right.
That's basically the idea behind the first aid in rugby course, the level 1 course. Then the level 2 course is only meant for medical professionals, and they teach you a bit more invasive stuff, putting in the tubes and how to open the respiratory system in case of an unconsciousness, how to put the neck brace, how to think of the C-spine, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do your level 2, they encourage you to do this educator course. So basically, I can take a level 1 anywhere in the world because I am certified as a level 1 educator. So I can take that level 1 course anywhere in the world and certify people as a L1 medical pitchside care.
So I'm presuming you need to have some kind of a background to be able to enroll. Like you can't be like anybody and just come in. You need some medical background to be part
No,
of.
definitely. Yes, you have to have a medical background to be an educator and to be anything above level 1. So if you want to do the level 2 and the level 3, you have to be in the medical field. To be the educator, obviously, you have to be a medico yourself to be able to impart that kind of knowledge.
I see. So,
yeah. So to bring you back to what we were talking about, sometimes on field there are more than one injuries that takes place.
Right.
And rugby as a sport does not stop when a person is injured.
Right.
It goes on. So the medical team comes and they do their own thing. But however, in a case of a head injury or a concussion, the game does stop sooner, if not later.
Okay.
And in that kind of a scenario, the medical team cannot attend to 2 cases at the same time, which is where the player on field steps in and does the immediate action plan. So what we're taught is that if a person is lying down unconscious, immobilize the spine immediately. So we go there and we hold the head in place and make sure that they're not moving and keep talking to them. So that's the first action plan that we do. So in that kind of a scenario, yes, I always make sure that I am there. Even though I am there as a player, I immediately change my cap and get in as a medical.
That's amazing. I'm kind of like now, though, like I was telling you, I have so many questions. I'm thinking of kind of wrapping it up a little bit, and hopefully, I don't know if I can invite you another time, because here are some of the things that I still want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about and this will not be done in like another 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Like I want to talk to you about like your off-season strength and conditioning. I saw that video of you doing bear crawls where you're trying to tip those 2 other people. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
The thing I was actually eyeballing was your spinal movement. I was like, man, her spine does not move at all, right? So you've really trained yourself well to do that. So just quickly, I guess maybe at hopefully at a future podcast, I could ask you about strength and conditioning, what off season looks like, the common injuries and stuff like that. But I wanted to kind of wrap this up by asking you, like, what do you think about, like, if you had a message for physios in India who are now pursuing and who want to, I guess, be part of like a team physio of a certain sport or something, is there any message that you'd like to give them to get their foot in the door?
To get their foot in the door, well, actually, I would tell them to be very well equipped in terms of their knowledge, because today what is being appreciated a lot is the kind of knowledge you have, and not only about one thing, but any coach wants to have a physiotherapist who can take any kind of training. So if the coach is absent and he tells the physio, okay, today we want to work on their pulling strength, the physio should be able to immediately go, cut, 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 cut. Okay, pulling, we're working on pulling today. What are we going to do? 100 exercises and 100 plans should already be in their mind. So you need to be one, well equipped in terms of your knowledge and in terms of the recent information that's out there. Two, you need to be able to improvise very, very well on the spot, because suddenly a plan will change, suddenly your athlete will not turn up, suddenly you, instead of 10 people, you'll have only 2 people. So want to be able to improvise on that. Number three, you want to I have a thought in my mind right now. You should be able to do every exercise that you think of, at least 5 repetitions of it. You should be able to do. Because if you are training your athlete for it, you should be able to understand what they are going through at their level when they do the exercise with what you prescribe. And fourthly, be very, very communicative, because as a physiotherapist, you have to be extremely transparent with your athlete, with your coaching team, with your entire team about uh, what is happening with the athletes, because you are the only one who knows it inside out medically. So these are the 4 things I would say to definitely possess as a physiotherapist, to be able to approach a team or to be able to approach an organization as a physio.
Do you think a physio needs to have played a sport to be a physio of that, or no? Like, you
That's
could.
a cherry on the cake. That's a cherry on the cake. I remember when I was studying in college, some of the things I would just pick up, like, yeah, obviously, like the uh, when we were being taught about the knee, and the our professors were throwing in words like ACL and meniscus and PCL, and I was like, yeah, these all have got injured in my in my players or in my friends. They got these reconstructed, and then I knew the whole thing because I knew what procedure they went through. So I'm like, oh, and then I'm talking to myself, I'm like, yeah, and then they take the hamstring graft, and not the hamstring, then they take the patella graft. My friends are just looking at me like, how the fuck do you know? And
Mhm.
I'm like, my friends, my teammates have gone through these surgeries, so I know.
Right.
So when they spoke about it, I actually had an entire vision of what is happening. So definitely, being an athlete helps you 100% in a course like physiotherapy.
But so if you wanted to be a sports physio for a team, you don't have to have played it. Like, if you have some good knowledge, could you still make it?
You could make it, but you're gonna have to be that active to be with a sports team, because you can't stand in one place and uh, command.
Oh yeah,
That's just
yeah.
not how you're gonna do
We
it.
got embraced.
You have to,
Yeah.
because if you're rehab, like, let's say if you're taking a rehab program for your your badminton player, and you're gonna sometimes have to be on the opposite side throwing the shuttles, or at least hitting the shuttles, and you don't want to be interrupting his game by not being able to even make the second hit. So you're going to have to be there for that rally at least,
Right. I see.
right? And you can't. So even if you don't have a sporting background, once you know you want to do sport physiotherapy and you've made up your mind, like, let's say you've made it up at the 3rd year of your bachelor's degree or at the 4th year of your bachelor's degree, that you want to pursue sport in your master's program, start enrolling yourself into some of the other sport. Just 2 to 3 months, 6 months, be in some sport, not for performance, but to try and test and understand the mechanics, because you now know it theoretically.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So yeah, we wrapped more than an hour here, so time to kind of wrap it off. And hopefully, I had a great time talking to you. It was an absolute pleasure and
Same
an
here,
honor
same
to
here,
have you
Adivasi.
on. This actually, I wanted to tell you before I sign off is I did this because this started as like I did the podcast because initially some of the episodes I have a lot of like just medical stuff in there. Like, for example, hamstring patella tendon graft, like what week, what are the strengths, what are the and then at some point I was like, I just want, like, I can leave the physio stuff aside. I want to talk to people within our community that inspire. It doesn't have to be, all medical stuff all the time. I have other platforms for that, but I want to talk to people who inspire me. And that's how I found you. I was like, this is something like more people need to see. I think I'm not very well versed with the leadership of physiotherapy in India, but I got to say, this is my personal thought, maybe like when we are looking at leadership for physiotherapy in India, I don't know why, but I should be seeing, like, and it's not you, but we should know you as one of our leaders there. I do
Absolutely.
like
Thank you
some
so
of
much, Adivasi.
No, yeah, absolutely. I see some of the leaders there, and they are good, but like I'm still not. It's something where when I see you, it's like, yeah, that's the leader. That's the kind of leader in our community that we want to see. I have nothing against like some of the other people. They're educators too, but we need like, I guess, like just a good variety where somebody who's like in the trenches, in the field, doing all these things, and at the same time making India proud, playing the sport as well. So once again, Vahbiz, it was an absolute honor and pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully I can talk to you.
Thank you, Abhijit. Yes, definitely. Let's plan it again. I know you have a lot of questions, and I have a lot of answers and stories.
Awesome.
So definitely, let me know whenever. Weekends works. Rest is up to your plan.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much again.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye bye.